Hello, everyone. Alexei from Marketing Evolution podcast. Today, I've got Zac with me. Zac, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Zac runs a business called Tenasu, and I'll let him know more about what he does in a minute. Um, as always, the idea behind this podcast is to keep you guys updated on the latest changes within the marketing world in terms of what businesses are doing, what's working, what's not working anymore. And Zac runs quite an interesting business and helps people quite a lot when it comes to their marketing. Zac, I won't spoil it, mate. Over to you. Tell us about your business, what you do exactly. Your business is called Tenasu. Over to
Yep.
you, mate.
All right, awesome. No, I appreciate the intro. So I guess if I was to really condense what I do down to a few lines, it really is like I try and consider what we do is it's human-centered digital strategy in a way. So we really pull back the layers because at the end of the day, there's always going to be new technologies, as we know. There's always going to be an evolution of sorts in terms of what tools we use. But at the core of it all, businesses are here to solve problems for people. So um, I focus on really getting clear on what the market needs are for a particular client. And then we sort of build up and make sure their offerings are aligned with those market needs. And then ultimately, once we have that alignment, we really focus on curating the right presence to make sure, you know, they're maximizing what channels they need to be on and how they're working people through a sales funnel and that sort of stuff.
Great, great. So what sort of businesses do you normally work with? Is this like local businesses, online, a bit of a mix, any particular industries?
Yeah, a bit of a mix. So been very, very fortunate. Last time, I'm actually in the middle of redoing a bit of a brand refresh and all that sort of stuff. But been very lucky. Worked across 23 industries now, I believe 7 major cities, and just about to crack projects that have sort of spanned across 7 different countries now. So definitely a very wide mix. But where we really thrive and what I really enjoy doing is working with client-based businesses, service-based businesses. More of the passion is in people who help people get healthy or wealthy. So the B2C market is definitely in that health, fitness, and wellness, and then we've got a B2B market, which is, you know, your accountants, lawyers, business coaches, business advisors. Those are the 2 sort of camps that we play in, because at the end of the day, where we can provide real value is it's not just, we don't just look at customer acquisition. Obviously, that's a big part. You need new work coming in. But we look at a lot of strategies around retention, re-engagement, and ultimately getting those clients to advocate for you by giving them a world-class experience. So we look at the full spectrum.
Yeah, great. Well, I think, engaging your past clients in particular has been one thing that a lot of businesses have completely forgotten about. And if you
Yeah,
think about any business that's been operating for longer than 2 years, there's got to be a database of some kind. Oftentimes people are just unsure as to what to do with that database. And yeah, I know in my experience, we've been getting a lot of inquiries from people, asking for help when it comes to that. I'm sure, you do a lot with that. And, what I find being the biggest problem is that people are often a little bit short-sighted when it comes to their email marketing or doing things like that.
big
It's
time.
just, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do email marketing. I'm going to send out an email and that's it.
Yeah.
Where what they're really lacking, and I think where your business really helps, is having a bigger idea about this overall strategy. What's going to happen? What's the end outcome? How do you measure the whole thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, mate, absolutely. With the, I guess, changes in the industry, I know this is probably, a question that's not a very general one. How long is a piece of string type of thing? But what are you noticing, mate? What sort of things are working? What's not working? What's changed the most in your trade, I guess?
Yeah, so I've found, I mean, first of all, I've been very, very fortunate. I've got quite a few long-term client relationships. So uh, it really helps when you build that relationship with your clients and you have a really good understanding of their business. So you're able to pivot a lot more. And I've actually found I can't even take full credit for a lot of the moves they've made, because some of these clients, I think they've definitely benefited from going through the process and they're thinking through things from a different lens now, and that they've actually been quite proactive in terms of, like, we understand our clients, we understand where they want to be, we're having more proactive conversations with them, so this is how we're going to pivot. One example I can give you, and I'm not even going to take credit for this idea because it wasn't mine, but he runs supplement brand, and he pivoted to at-home workout gear. Because as you know, you jump on Amazon, you go to try and go to Kmart, you try and go anywhere to get dumbbells or kettlebells or anything like that. You just can't get it. But at the end of the day, the supplement store is a vehicle for people who want to get healthy and are obviously interested in, working out and all that sort of thing. So he's done a really smart pivot by moving to selling this at-home workout gear. But where I really love with how he's gone with his content and his messaging is that he's providing examples of these workouts, really going into detail. They've got, all the people that work there have either a bodybuilding, competing, or personal training background. So they're very knowledgeable, and they've really sort of differentiated themselves from others where some people are just doing, your classic high intensity burpees and stuff like that. But these guys are actually showing that it feels just like weights with these really hardcore resistance bands, and you can very closely mimic what you would do in a gym. And speaking about the evolution where they've come from, like when I first met them, they were doing a lot of product heavy posts. So really pushing other people's brands. And that is part of their, I guess, point of difference is that they don't create their in-house brands to promote like a lot of other supplement stores do. They're really hard on the KPIs. These guys are all about value and delivering the right product for you. But over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, we've really shifted it to more education and what's the actual solution you're looking for, and then recommending a product. And we're finding that, is quite a lot more powerful. They've got a really engaged community. And so, yeah, that's just a really great example of someone who's pivoted really well, and they've, had some really, really successful weeks because of it.
Well, just on that alone, I mean, if you look at the whole elastic bands, as a product, it's been around forever. However,
totally.
Due to the current, obvious reasons, people have started looking for ways to exercise at home with something that's, quite effective. And at the same time, we've got shortage of gym equipment, and gym equipment isn't easy to ship around either.
No.
What's happened is if you look at the traditional marketing funnel, the whole awareness stage where people go, oh yeah, there's an elastic band, I might think about it, and then it comes to consideration, they would buy it. The customer has to be very specific. They have to know what they're buying. And what I've observed myself is that within this current period of time, the whole evolution of people being aware about something to the consideration has actually, increased in terms of speed and execution so much. I mean, you don't need to see any workouts. People are like, oh, I need some gym equipment. They go on a website that sells it. What do they have? Elastic bands. Boom. They go and buy it straight away. So the whole evolution of marketing funnel in this particular instance has been quite phenomenal. I mean, we work with quite a couple of businesses that do PT related stuff and supplements and stuff like that. And within every business, you get the 80-20, whether you look at it from in-store sales, online sales. For supplement stores, it's basically flipped. Before it was 80% in-store, 20% online. I mean, you've got some stores that could do it 50-50 or predominantly focused on online, but it really depends on the story of the business. And then I guess in relation to the products they're selling, we're finding that a lot of immunity or health related products are basically taking priority as opposed to like muscle gains and stuff. So there's been a bit of a shift as well. So, mate, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think it's really a matter of focusing on the right product, having a strategy around it, and making sure that it actually solves customer problems, mate. So that's a great example there.
And that's it. A lot of people can get similar to what I said before about how people get obsessed with the tools and not the connection with the person and their need. People do that with products a lot as well. They focus so heavily on the product, but they I'm sure a lot of companies out there are still really pushing protein powders, and they're probably finding, because that's probably been a big seller for them in the past, but they're probably finding that's not as much the priority for people anymore. It is more of these immunity boosting, and it's really great to see. And I love watching people get rewarded for having that awareness. You know what I mean? Like people that are really committed to understanding their customers and moving with them, I think bodes really well for their future. Because once again, I think this crisis has got us thinking short term, as it does, but we also really need to understand what are we going to do to come out the other side, and ultimately where does our business sit long term as well.
Yeah, well, look, in all honesty, I think that a lot of these processes were sort of building up anyway. It was just really a matter of time until a lot of these things would have kicked in.
For sure.
This whole scenario is really just speed things up, I guess, in terms of how they all occurred and what the customer needs are. I mean, people sat at home for a week thinking what's going to happen, how long is this all going to take? And I think the uncertainty really drove a lot of the businesses. The bike shops are out of stock. You got gym equipment being all sold out. You've got a lot of things that suddenly became in demand. And, think about sanitizer. Like a year ago, you would go in any store, it'd be everywhere, no one would buy it. Now suddenly everyone's washing hands, and it's like, well, it's nothing new, but suddenly the whole focus has changed.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, even look at some of the distilleries that are now producing hand sanitizer, and I believe some breweries are too. And it's it's phenomenal. And once again, like just pivoting to what the market needs at the time and putting yourself in the best position to win. It's a good thing to be providing solutions for people at this time. It's not a greedy cash grab. It's, you're actually providing value. This is what people want, and they're voting with their dollars.
Yeah. Well, look, I guess most businesses have got Facebook fan pages and probably don't really have a lot of a strategy around what to do with it. Most businesses have got some sort of a customer list and haven't really done a lot of email marketing. There's a lot of things that have been sort of done because everyone else is doing it. What's the best tip or advice that you can give to business owners in terms of where they can make some quick wins, or potentially where they can start as a business to potentially win some new customers or make some sales?
Yep. So what like what we were talking about earlier this morning, I think email marketing is your quick wins for sure. If you've been building a database, like I often call email marketing permission marketing, because people have permitted you to market back to them through obviously opting into an email list, opting into a lead magnet, or purchasing a product and ticking the box. So that is a quick win, just being really personalized. I'm a big fan of 9-word emails. You might be familiar with that concept in terms of it's, no imagery, very, it's 1 to 2 sentences max. And it's basically just opening dialogue. And I think so many people get caught up with trying to make a sale instantly, but it is about creating that dialogue and opening that conversation and seeing where you can help them. Another tool I use, especially with any client that ever feels frantic in a service-based businesses, I always get them to write a network map, because we always think so short-sighted in terms of where our opportunities, and sometimes we're like, if leads aren't coming in at the same rate that they were, some people see that as like, oh my God, there's no opportunity out there. What do we do? And they start making reactionary decisions. But I find by regularly revisiting a network map, or regularly revisiting previous clients or cold opportunities, anything like that, by keeping them warm and re-engaging in conversation with them, people would be pleasantly surprised with how many you can convert quite quickly. So those are two, I guess, short sword strategies, I like to call them, in terms of like you can utilize them at any time quite quickly. But we also focus heavily on long sword strategies, which is, building the brand over time and building different assets for them to use.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm observing as a marketer, I'm finding that a lot of businesses are aware of certain tools that are out there, like MailChimps, or potentially like Hootsuite and so on, all the things for social media management. Some of them might be pretty good at some tactics. They might be good at sending out a newsletter. Not specifically focused on anything, just a regular newsletter to touch base with people. But very few businesses have actually got a strategy behind what they're doing. And I think that's really where the gap is. And I think that's where your skill set comes in, because
absolutely
you can spend all the time in the world compiling those beautiful newsletters and send them out every month. But unless something actually gets generated, what's the point? And a lot of the time, the whole thing is really delegated to a member of the team that doesn't understand the why or the bigger strategy behind the scenes.
100%. And like what you said before, it's like people can lean on these tactics and then say, oh, it doesn't work, but they've really only tried it once, and they haven't taken the time to actually put the thought process into, all right, what are we doing this for? Where is it connecting? And where does it sit in the bigger picture of all that? One of my favorite quotes is by Sun Tzu from Art of War. And it's tactics before strategy is the noise before defeat. And it's essentially like, if you just want to shotgun all these tactics out there, all you're going to do is waste time, energy, resources, and you're going to lose momentum by doing that. But if you slow down to speed up and you put the strategy in place and you're methodical about it, yes, of course, you're still going to have to refine and review and move, and not everything's going to be a slam dunk. But when it's sitting under an overarching plan, it's a lot easy to shift. And as we've seen, businesses that have a strategy, when a situation like this happens, it's easy for them to shift, because they don't have to spend too much thinking about like if everyone's having brainstorming meetings right now about what do our clients really want, well, if they started selling home workout gear next week as opposed to 3-4 weeks ago, they never would have got the sales that they would have. But because their ear was on the ground, they understand their market, they understand what the market needs at that time. And it's been a great tool for them in terms of bringing in new customers that they previously weren't getting as well. But it's got them in the ecosystem. They've had a great experience, and now they're more likely to come back and buy more items. So it's almost like, how do we generate some interest? How do we solve a problem? But then how do we keep them in the ecosystem so they become a long, high lifetime value client?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to marketing, it's a trial and error most of the time.
Absolutely.
However, a lot of the time people aren't really sure how to measure it either. So I think one of the key components of a strategy, you've got defined metrics as to, how is the engagement going? How is the click through? How is the, retention going? And I think that's very important, because a lot of the time, you speak to a business owner and they say, oh, I've tried Facebook marketing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for my business. And oftentimes people mirror off other businesses and go, oh yeah, I'm looking at that business. I want to do what these guys do. And that's another big problem as well, because half the time they don't see the big strategy. They just see, a part of, tactics that are being exposed, and the assumption that whatever they're doing must be doing really well. Where in fact that causes even more of a problem if they're trying to sort of mimic what they say without understanding the bigger strategy.
100%. I think it's a very dangerous mindset to have, is copying others, because you don't know the intricacies of their business. You don't know the steps they've taken to get that in place. And to be honest, you don't even know if it is actually working. Like, perception is one thing, reality is entirely another. So, you might see someone pouring money into ads, but, I'm sure you've stepped into some campaigns as well where they're spending a lot of money on, but getting no result. And it's just because they don't have an awareness around, like, what they can actually spend to acquire a customer, and they don't know when to pull the pin on a campaign or when to double down. I think that's just as important.
Yeah. So, Zac, tell us how you work with businesses. I mean, you've got a couple of different packages that you offer. How would you work with someone to develop a strategy? I mean, you've got some workshops that you do. You've got some other things as well. Tell us about how this flows.
Yeah, of course. So, so my core offering is a 90-day strategy program, where essentially we go through the whole business and we look at it, where are the gaps, what's working, what isn't, how do they currently get their clients, what do their marketing assets look like? Do they have a database? Are they on social media? What are they doing? From there, we really start building things from the ground up. So like I said, from the pyramid, we really define their market, understand what the need is there, really go through their current offerings and see if there's any other opportunity there, in terms of, like, should you have a lower ticket item? Should you have a higher ticket item? Do you need something that sits in the middle? What is your sales process? Are you maximizing that opportunity? How much can you spend to acquire a customer profitably? What are you doing on the back end to increase their lifetime value? We really look at, that whole process. And then from there, we build, I guess, the content strategy, and that's more of the curating the presence and implementing tactics that go under the strategy.
Okay.
So that takes 90 days. We typically do 8 strategy sessions with the client. We go really deep on it. From there, the whole idea of the 90-day strategy is to be able to give it back to them with confidence that they could implement it if they wanted to. Because I'm not going to prescribe the same solution to a solo business owner that I would someone with a team of 10 people and that has a dedicated marketing specialist or coordinator. And then from there, we can either, they can continue to engage me in some form if they want to. It can be a divide and conquer approach where they handle some of it, I handle some of it, or I can project manage it, or I can work in with their team. There's a few different options around that, but I won't work with anybody unless we have a strategy. So back in the day, I used to jump straight into the mix, and then I realized some campaigns would go really well, other campaigns would not go well. And I found that the common denominator was the level of strategy that was already in place or that we could build in that time. So that's why I focus wholly on strategy now. And I do half-day one-on-one workshops with people as well. That's more for people that probably more in the startup stage, or they just have one specific problem. Like, they might have some existing marketing that's going quite well, but they want to look at implementing something else. That's an opportunity for me to really review and literally workshop that problem with people, and then the goal at the end of that workshop is we really pick one or two key problems and we have a solution for that. We're not looking at solving everything in the half day. We're just looking at, what can we do to create momentum? And to be honest, 9 times out of 10, they typically will want to do the 90-day strategy after that. So yeah, that's the two ways that I predominantly work with people right now.
Cool. So how would someone get in contact with you? Is it via the website or via your social media profiles?
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely where I'm most active. So just Zac Daunt at LinkedIn.
Okay. I'll share the link for your business as well in case people want to get in contact with you. And mate, one thing I personally enjoy is your newsletters as well.
Thank you.
You've got some really good points in there and some of them are quite inspiring. How can somebody get onto your newsletter list?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually in the middle of moving that because I had it all sitting on ClickFunnels before. So now I'm actually moving it to the website. So everything's in the one category. Best is just to add me on LinkedIn for the time being. This is like a small 3-4 day period where they actually can't opt in. But yeah, just send me a message or send me an email at Zac@Tenasu, tenasu.com. And yeah, I can get you in there. But yeah, really appreciate the kind words. I spend a fair bit of time on them and I really try and deliver a lot of value. So yeah, definitely no selling or spam involved.
Yeah, well, look, I guess LinkedIn is a great platform, and a lot of people are just unsure what to do with it. I find that there's some really good conversations that are happening with people because if you connect with someone and start a conversation, it's a professional workplace, and if you're dealing with these people professionally, people respond to messages, they read those emails. And I think a lot of people just haven't really done too much with it. So I understand, it's important to be exactly where your customers are. And I think you're doing the right thing. As for myself, we are continuously evolving a lot of things in our websites either. So we've got newsletter opt-ins, new websites, new verticals, and so on and so forth. So, mate, it's work in progress, just like for any other marketing agency, especially when it comes to digital, mate. Everything's just going digital.
100%. Yeah, you just got to evolve with the times. And I had a whole bunch of just different landing pages that I would use on ClickFunnels, and I've just realized I just want to get all of it into a central hub. And I think that's I guess my personal evolution moving forward is just upgrading that aspect of things.
Yeah, ClickFunnels is a great product. I mean, I'm quite familiar with Russell Brunson, his approach and what he's been doing, but I find it's a little bit one-sided. It's great to execute one part of the actual marketing strategy, but if you're looking at a bigger picture, especially like CRMs and potentially looking after customers and then running other campaigns, it's a little bit one-sided, and it's also very CRM dependent as well. A lot of people sort of sign up to ClickFunnels and then they realize there's all this additional cost to execute the rest of it, which could be quite overwhelming, especially when you sign up for something like Infusionsoft, which is $200-300 a month, and then you don't get anything done for the next month or two. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm getting all this costs, I've got to do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think when you overinvest in those costs and it takes you a few months to get things up and running, I think that's where people pull the pin as well. And it's like, well, what else can you use to get a similar effect? And then how can I guess almost you kind of bootstrap your marketing in that way too. It's like, how do you gradually improve? And I think that's a really good message as well, is, it's about getting things in place as you build. It's not about just trying one thing and then stopping, trying one thing and then stopping. It's kind of have to get things to work in concert with each other.
Yeah, I know businesses that have done quite well with ClickFunnels and they continuously use it, and the entire marketing funnels and client acquisition depends on it, which is great. That's exactly what it's for. But if you're running a normal local business, if you've got a store and you just don't have the time to focus on that just one side of things, I just find that it's often not used enough, and the costs are basically just prohibitive. So that's the thing. Anyway, mate, that's awesome. That's really good stuff that you are sharing. I guess are there any books that you would recommend to our listeners? I know you've got quite a bookshelf behind you, mate. Anything in particular that would help people get a little bit more clarity, get a little bit more decisive in their marketing? Anything that would help?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest, in the last sort of 6 to 12 months, I've been reading less, I guess, marketing specific books. But in the last 2 weeks, I've actually looped back around to a fair few of them. One of them I was actually just reading this morning, Never Eat Alone. It's actually a great networking book. It's all about how to foster your relationships. And it's kind of been the backbone of how I talk to people about creating like a bit of a network map and maximizing their their short-term opportunities. And another book that is quite good, just at getting sort of like an overall idea, is One-Page Marketing Plan. To be honest, like it's some of these really great books that have great principles just have the most basic titles, but it's actually pretty great. It really covers things from an end to end in 9 key sections, and I think people can read that and have a quite a good understanding of just like where to take the first step.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Zac, thanks very much for your time, mate. And for our listeners on the podcast platform, if you like this stuff, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, there's a button below. Make sure you click that and keep updated with our content. Zac, pleasure. I'll see you around and look forward to working with you in the near future as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Alexei. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.